With over 130,000 followers, Mahek Bukhari was a rising TikTok star in the UK, known for her incredible fashion sense, or at least that's what her fans thought. But when her mom, Ansreen Bukhari, turned to her for help with a messy love affair, a scandalous affair she was having, Mahek chose to stand by her mom in the most unexpected way, by targeting her mom's ex-lover who was allegedly blackmailing her. What started as a plan for revenge quickly spiraled into a nightmare far worse than anyone could imagine. An 8-person operation was set in motion to ambush a young man, much younger than her mom, but things got out of control fast. So, who really is Mahek Bukhari, this up-and-coming TikTok influencer? Why did Ansreen trust her with such a messy situation? What sparked her to go to such extremes? And how does this story end? Stick around to find out. Welcome back to I Felt the Dark. Today, we're diving into the chilling case of Mahek Bukhari. This case shook the UK last year, and honestly, we have to talk about what really went down. Grabbed major headlines because, get this, the culprit was a rising influencer. So, if you're curious about all the details, the best way to support me is by hitting that subscribe button. Don't forget to ring the bell so you won't miss any creepy stories from around the world. Now, let's jump straight into the Mahek Bukhari case. Last time, we covered a Central European tragedy, a Swiss model murdered by her husband. But today, we're landing in Leicester, England. What makes this city so interesting? Let's dig a little deeper. Quick backstory first. Mahek's grandparents were originally from Pakistan and moved to the UK. Why? Honestly, I have no clue. But let's just roll with it and head straight to Leicester. Leicester sits in the heart of England in the East Midlands region, known for the peaceful and picturesque countryside of Leicestershire. But hold on, don't let the calm vibes fool you. This city has its own unique quirks. Fun fact: Leicester hosts the largest Diwali festival outside of India. Imagine this: glittering lights along Leicester's Golden Mile drawing in up to 45,000 people every year. Sounds amazing, right? If you're looking to soak in the lively Indian vibes without hopping on a flight, Leicester's the place to be. Though, fair warning, you might get annoyed by all the noise from the festivities. But hey, for those celebrating, it's pure joy. Weird, isn't it? But while Leicester is known for its lively celebrations, it also has a darker side. And unfortunately, one of those shadows is the murder case involving Mahek. This tragedy drags us into the city's more somber side. Of course, Leicester's got other head-scratching stories too, like the discovery of King Richard III's long-lost skeleton in a parking lot. Yeah, you heard that right. After more than 500 years, they found the guy in a spot where you could casually park your car. Imagine thinking, whoa, they found a king in a parking lot? What's next? Neptune's crown like in SpongeBob? Well, in Leicester, apparently anything can happen, including the influencer drama we're about to uncover. Back to Mahek Bukhari. Mahek was a social media influencer famous on TikTok. And as you might have guessed, what you see online isn't always what it seems. Behind the glitz and glam of her influencer life, turns out she was actually broke. Haha, just kidding, guys. But for real, there was a very dark side to her story. Leicester, which seemed like a peaceful, festive city, ended up being the silent witness to this tragedy. Mahek shocked the Leicester community with a murder conspiracy, an influencer who, behind her sparkling digital persona, was caught in a web of violence and crime. Pretty heartbreaking to hear, isn't it? On a chilly February morning in 2022, the city buzzed with shock over the terrible news from the night before. But before we dive into the main story, let's meet today's subject, Mahek Bukhari. Mahek lived with her family and was born in 1999 in the United States before her family eventually moved to the UK. She was the daughter of Ansreen and Ali. In school, she was pretty popular, known for her sharp sense of fashion. After what she felt was a painfully ordinary and maybe super boring education, Mahek made a brilliantly wise decision, or well, let's call it an interesting one. She dropped out of university to chase her dream of becoming a TikTok star. Obviously, a move like that requires an IQ in at least the triple digits because Mahek was clearly aiming for something they don't teach in school. But hey, who needs a degree when you can become an influencer, right? Through a lot of careful thinking, or maybe not much thinking at all. She launched her online persona, Maybe Vlogs. She quickly found success on TikTok and Instagram, though I can't say I totally get the hype. To be fair, I don't even have TikTok or Instagram, so what do I know? That said, her videos managed to grab attention. She racked up 120,000 followers on TikTok, 38,000 on Instagram, and 4,000 subscribers on YouTube. On her channel, Maybe Vlogs, Mahek often shared content about cool outfits, impressive makeup skills, and occasionally glimpses of her lifestyle. Her fans, especially young women in the UK, seemed to absolutely love it. By 2021, Mahek started making money through TikTok sponsorships. Okay, maybe it wasn't enough to buy a mansion, but it was enough to give off the vibe of being a cashless millionaire. You know, rich, but mostly in the cashless department. Haha, just kidding, guys. Her virtual empire started to grow, with extra income coming in from endorsements and ads. She stayed busy posting outfit photos on Instagram, making long vlogs on YouTube, and doing the usual TikTok stuff, dancing around. Oh, and about an OnlyFans account? Well, no confirmation there, but if she did have one, it's probably gone now because of her case. But hey, who knows, right? Not that I was checking or anything. Just a tiny bit curious. Haha, kidding guys, don't take it too seriously. Even though Mahek's solo TikTok videos were doing fairly well, things really took off when she introduced her mom, Ansreen, into the mix. And once she saw the numbers, she kept bringing her mom into almost every post. From an average of 40,000 views on her solo clips, the numbers skyrocketed to between 300,000 and a whopping 1 million views when her mom joined Indiana. Clearly, the mother-daughter duo had a unique charm that worked wonders for her channel. As a mom who enthusiastically supported her daughter, Ansreen started getting some online attention of her own. But her story was vastly different from Mahek's. Born in Pakistan, Ansreen moved to the UK as a child. Although Ansreen once dreamed of becoming a flight attendant, her parents had other plans. They stopped her from going to college and instead arranged her marriage to Ali Raza. Over time, she became a housewife, looking after 2 kids and her husband. But that lifestyle didn't seem to suit Ansreen, and unbeknownst to her family, she began a secret affair with a much younger man, 21-year-old Saqib Hussain, who, by the way, was 21 when he died. So imagine how young he was when he started having an affair with Mahek's mom, Ansreen. Seriously, take a guess, how young? Saqib didn't seem to mind dating an older woman. In fact, he really enjoyed Ansreen's company, even if it had to be kept under wraps. Ansreen might have looked like Saqib's mom at this point. Let's be honest, time wasn't on her side. But hey, maybe Ansreen, with her not-so-snappy figure, was just a convenient option for this naughty young man who couldn't deal with the drama of hard-to-get younger girls. Just kidding, guys. Maybe Saqib thought Ansreen brought something different to the table. Good service and experience. Who knows? But seriously, this relationship was a mystery. What was it about Ansreen that had Saqib so hooked? Was it love that defied age, or something else entirely? Is this some kind of syndrome? I mean, in Indonesia, there's a guy who married a 60-year-old woman when he was 19, and they're still going strong. Is this a condition or just desperation? And let's not even get started on India, where even animals get involved in questionable acts. Haha, no joke guys, it's real. In 2019, Saqib and Ansreen started talking to each other after a random encounter on a live video app. Not sure exactly which app it was, maybe something like Omegle or Bigo. Those apps that connect you to millions of people. It's kind of weird imagining a Pakistani or Indian using an app like this as a dating platform, right? But hey, it works both locally and globally, and you never know who you'll meet. It's all random, no logic, no pattern, just pure chaos. After this random match, they realized they lived pretty close, no long-distance struggles here, so they exchanged numbers and started talking every day. What began as friendly chats quickly spiraled into a full-blown affair, complete with flirty texts, late-night calls, and eventually physical meetups. Their relationship turned sexual pretty fast, and it became a regular thing. Little did anyone know back then that this secret romance would set off a chain of events leading to a tragedy that claimed not one but 2 lives. Ansreen? Oh, she was probably on cloud 9, soaking up the attention Saqib was giving her. I mean, who wouldn't feel special being pursued by a younger guy, full of passion and testosterone-fueled energy? Let's be real, you can kind of see how she felt, stuck in a dull marriage and craving some excitement. Along came Saqib, offering exactly what she was missing. Two kept their meetings secret, sneaking off to hotels, shisha lounges, coffee shops, and restaurants. Ooh-ya-la-la, spicy stuff, right? Must have felt like an action movie with all that sneaking around. Maybe the age gap made things feel a bit more exciting, or maybe there were other reasons we'll never fully understand, who knows, right? But by 2021, their fiery romance started to fizzle out. Turns out, even the most passionate affairs don't last forever. Ansreen decided to call it quits, leaving Saqib heartbroken. Of course, being young and not exactly experienced in the art of rejection, Saqib didn't take it well. So what did he do? Classic post-breakup play, begging and pleading. He tried to convince Ansreen to change her mind, but she'd already made up her mind. Love's kinda like Wi-Fi, Ansreen probably thought to herself. Even with a strong signal, it cuts out when the power's off. And just like that, their relationship was over. But Saqib, being 21 and clearly not skilled in the art of letting go, decided to handle it in the most dramatic way possible. Instead of moving on, he went full-on revenge mode. He started threatening to expose their relationship to Ansreen's husband, and even threatened to send her nude photos to her family. Honestly, Saqib sounds less like a heartbroken lover and more like a lead character in a K-drama. Seriously, who does this in real life? Tired of the constant harassment from Saqib, by the end of 2021, Ansreen finally decided to open up to her daughter Mahek, the so-called viral influencer who somehow specializes in making questionable life choices. Ansreen spilled all the drama to Mahek, hoping for a solution that wouldn't lead to even more chaos. Now, these two were known to be super close, like a dynamic duo on TikTok. But this time, with Saqib's threats looming over them, their bond faced its biggest test. Instead of doing the logical thing like, calling the police, Mahek went straight for an extreme option. And what was that? Violence. Yep, no trips to the authorities here, just a full-on adrenaline-fueled shortcut. This moment pretty much sealed their fate. If only Mahek and Ansreen had decided to involve law enforcement, this story might have turned into a boring courtroom drama, but at least everyone would have stayed alive. Instead, Mahek, fired up with rage over how her mom was being treated by Saqib, decided to come up with a plan that honestly sounds ripped straight from a bad action movie. Let me say it again for the people in the back. Blackmail is illegal everywhere. The legal system literally exists to help victims like Ansreen. But no, Mahek skipped the handbook on logical decisions and went full vigilante mode, recruiting 6 others to help her out. If you're sitting there thinking, well, maybe this was her way of proving her love for her mom. Sure, love can be blind, but let's not let common sense take a nap too, okay? So instead of handling this mess peacefully or legally, Mahek decided to crank up the drama to a whole new level, like a criminal soap opera full of threats and violence. Tragically, Mahek took things too far in what honestly looked more like a B-movie script than a real-life situation. Mahek got in touch with a local mechanic and a few friends, who, to be honest, didn't seem like the dream team for this mission. Together, they hatched a plan to lure Sakab to a private parking lot. There, they offered him a peaceful solution in the form of a bribe worth £3,000, or about $3,800. Why £3,000? Well, apparently Sakab claimed that was the total amount he'd spent during their relationship. He said it covered things like a new phone screen he'd broken because of their relationship, hotel stays, and, let's just say, other essentials like condoms and lube. Oops, this isn't keeping up with the Kardashians, so let's stay focused. But seriously, lube? Maybe Sakab thought he needed some extra help with Ansreen, given that she's, let's say, not in her 20s anymore. Haha, just kidding, folks. So, Sakab came off like that one ex who wants everything back after a breakup. Rings, movie tickets, you name it. It's actually kind of funny because when you break it down, the benefits he got out of this whole relationship were probably way more expensive than the cash he was demanding. Come on, Sakab, be a little more of a gentleman next time. But wait, the plot thickens. Mahek pretended to agree to pay the money, but really, she and her creative team were setting up a trap for Sakab. That night, Mahek's crew, Karwan, Riz Jamal, Amir Jamal, Sanaf Gula Mustafa, Natasha Akhtar, and Muhammad Patel, were all ready for the execution night celebration. Sakab, clueless and innocent, agreed to meet Ansreen and Mahek to get the cash. Little did he know that night wasn't about the money, it was about a much bigger plan that would change everything. After weeks of planning, which honestly sounded like a low-budget movie script, Sakab finally fell for the poisonous charm, aka Mahek. They agreed to meet at a super romantic spot, the Tesco supermarket parking lot in the middle of the night on February 11, 2022. Because honestly, what could beat the ambience of neon lights and the smell of stale bread at midnight, right? But there was one big problem. Sakab couldn't drive. Sakab, what's going on? A grown man who can't drive? Weird, right? Maybe he never passed his test, or maybe he was so busy thinking about his love drama that he forgot to learn how to drive. Who knows, but it makes me wonder, what exactly does Sakab do in his spare time? But Sakab wasn't out of ideas. In his excitement to get his money returned, he casually asked his friend Hashim for a ride to Leicester. Hashim, who had no idea about the drama, kindly agreed to help his friend out. This is one of those cases where being a good friend really backfires. So, without asking many questions, Hashim and Sakab set off from Banbury to Leicester in the middle of the night. But there was another, much bigger and scarier problem. Neither of them had a clue that this trip wasn't just about getting money back, but rather a ticket to a deadly trap set by Mahek. Shortly after 1 a.m., Ansreen and Mahek arrived at the agreed meeting spot in the Tesco parking lot. But wait, they weren't alone. They brought along 6 backup players dressed in black and wearing balaclavas. Whether this was a revenge plot or an audition for a low-budget action movie, the vibe was straight up like the opening scene of Fast Furious Midlands Edition. Their plan? To ambush Sakab using 2 cars, an Audi TT which looked like the dream car of any teen, and a Seat Leon which might sound like a college buddy's name but turns out it's a car. CCTV footage shows Sakab and Hashim arriving at the parking lot around 1 a.m. in a Skoda Fabia. A practical choice of car though, let's be honest, it's not exactly intimidating for a scene like this. Skoda Fabia? More like Skoda-phobia, because they had no idea they were cruising straight into a trap set up with full drama by Mahek and her crew. Who knew a Tesco parking lot at dawn could turn into the stage for a real-life crime thriller? But as soon as they arrived, the vibe shifted to something off. Sakab, who's usually too caught up in his own life drama, suddenly turned into Sherlock Holmes. He said to Hashim, "Why are there 2 cars? We were supposed to meet with one person, not a convoy." A bad feeling kicked in, so they did the smartest thing they could, ran for it. 'Cause, well, survival instincts are important, especially when you feel like you're getting trapped in a Tesco parking lot. 2 minutes later, security cameras caught 2 cars, the Seat Leon and Audi TT, leaving the parking lot. But they weren't off to grab midnight snacks, they went straight after the Skoda Fabia. CCTV in Leicester caught the dramatic chase. Yeah, this chase was more like an episode of Wacky Races than Fast Furious. The investigation later revealed that there had been several calls between Saqib and Mahek around 1 a.m. In the following moments, Saqib and Hashim circled the roundabout several times, with the situation growing more frantic each time. As could be seen, all the vehicles were speeding up and even ran red lights in the middle of the night. Not long after, all three cars were recorded speeding down the A607 in Leicester. In his panic, Saqib decided to call 999. His voice was frantic and full of fear. "Someone's following me, they're wearing balaclavas, they're trying to ram me off the road, they're trying to kill me, I'm gonna die, please, please help me!" His voice grew louder and faster, and the operator on the other end was probably thinking, "Wait, is this an emergency or an audition for a drama?" But this wasn't a joke. In his final heartbreaking scream, the call suddenly cut off. The operator, hearing this, must have thought, "Oh no, this isn't a midnight soap opera." Not long after, the Skoda Fabia driven by Saqib crashed into a tree at high speed, and tragedy struck. Authorities received reports from passing drivers about a car burning fiercely near the A46 in Leicester. Imagine you're just sleepy on your way home and then you see a car turning into a bonfire. Midnight bonus trauma, the caller might have thought. Fire and rescue services were quickly deployed. But after the fire was put out, officers discovered two bodies inside the car. Sadly, they were identified as Saqib and Hashim. Ironically, this tragic end felt more like the climax of a thriller than just a regular drive home. Investigators concluded that Saqib's vehicle hit the central reservation before crashing into a tree. The impact was so severe that the car split in two, with the engine being thrown far from the body of the vehicle. Tragically, both men inside were confirmed dead instantly, even before the fire engulfed the car. However, when police began investigating the accident, shocking facts quickly emerged. The deaths of Saqib and Hashim weren't just a tragic accident. Crash was immediately linked to Saqib's 999 emergency call just before the accident, in which he reported being chased by two vehicles. Perpetrators, who were gang members, fled the scene after ramming Saqib's Skoda Fabia. But their trail wasn't hard to follow. A tracker on the Audi TT, which turned out to be a rental car, showed that the vehicle was traveling at over 160 kilometers per hour during the chase. Meanwhile, the speed of the Skoda at the time of the crash was estimated to be around 128 kilometers per hour. Through the incident, a CCTV camera on the A46 captured two gang members getting out of their car. They casually inspected the damage to the vehicle like amateur mechanics before getting back in and driving off without any sign of panic. They even passed by the scene of Saqib's burning car on their way back to Leicester. Ironically, even though small flames were still flickering in the wreckage, they didn't feel the need to report the incident. "Ah, the joys of a late-night barbecue," the perpetrator probably thought to himself. During their escape, Mahek took the wheel of the Audi TT while Natasha drove the seat Leon. With faces as calm as poker players, they headed back to Leicester, hoping their actions wouldn't be exposed. But as the saying goes, crime leaves a trail, especially when the criminals are too cocky. CCTV footage showed the gang walking through Leicester in the early hours, and phone records revealed calls and messages exchanged among the 8 defendants. The group then decided to split up. Natasha, the registered owner of the seat, began her journey back to Birmingham, while other members of the Bukhari group headed north to Stoke-on-Trent. Meanwhile, Leicester police knew something the gang didn't. Saqib's 999 call had been forwarded to detectives, and in that call, he had provided the license plate numbers of all the vehicles involved. With this information, officers began reviewing local CCTV cameras that automatically detect license plates. After issuing a warning, 2 officers in West Midlands spotted Natasha in the seat. The accident report quickly shifted to a double homicide case. Police worked tirelessly to track down the perpetrators as fast as possible. They were highly responsive to the evidence, and less than 10 hours after the tragedy, Mahek and Ansreen had officers knocking on their door. body camera footage showed them lying to the police about their whereabouts. They told officers they had gone to Nottingham that night, but their lies weren't convincing. Minutes later, they were handcuffed and taken in for questioning at the police station.
Yeah, no, we'll do that.
Where was
So
it?
we first stayed here, and then we went straight to Nottingham.
Right. Okay. In the Audi.
Yes,
Right.
There's a car that's coming on the right-hand side, a Seat Leon, don't know the model or anything, but it was blue, come straight down, no speed, nothing, normal on the right-hand side. We were always on the left-hand side. This right-hand side car's come now, the Leon, the blue one, has come straight next to me and come right in front of me, not very close. I've always said to myself, I'm a very good driver when it comes to this. I've been driving for 5 years, 45 years, and I've said to myself, always keep a 2 to 3 second rule gap.
After the Seat Leon and Audi TT were seized, forensic investigators found damning evidence. The front damage on the Seat Leon matched the marks from crashing into the back of the Skoda Fabia. Additionally, a wheel key was found in the Audi TT's trunk, and a curved metal tool was discovered in the driver's seat of the Seat Leon. Both were believed to have been brought specifically to attack Saqib. This evidence strengthened the suspicion that the incident wasn't just a tragic accident. During questioning, Mahek kept lying about where she was the night Saqib and Hashim were killed. But when the police played Saqib's 999 call, her expression changed. The shock was evident. It was as if she just realized the police knew more than she thought. But instead of confessing, Mahek doubled down on her lies, trying to weave an even more complicated story. Eventually, after several rounds of denial, she started crying and attempted to turn the blame on Saqib, calling him a manipulative liar who deserved what happened to him. Soon after, Mahek, Ansreen, and Natasha Akhtar were arrested. Raiz Jamal and Karwan were caught 3 days later. Amir Jamal and Sanaf Gula Mustafa were finally arrested in March, about a month after the incident. Prosecution faced a heavy task with all the evidence that needed to be reviewed, including over 200 hours of surveillance footage from 40 different locations and more than 300 witness statements. The tragedy made major headlines in the UK in January 2022. The spotlight was on Mahek and her mother, Ansreen, who were previously known only as influencers. Ironically, behind their glamorous social media image, there was a dark side as cold-blooded criminals. It took almost 18 months for the prosecution to fully build their case, but finally, in April 2023, the trial began and lasted for 15 weeks. With so much evidence piling up against them, the defense team barely had room to argue. Surveillance footage, phone calls, forensic evidence, and messages found on Ansreen and Mahek's phones all added to the weight of the charges. One of the messages Mahek sent to her mother said, "I'll have him beaten by our people, Mom, and I'll make sure he won't know what day it is because he shouldn't be alive anymore." On Friday, August 4, 2023, after 18 long months of waiting, Saqib and Hashim's family was finally ready to learn the fate of their killers. On that same day, Mahek was seen by reporters outside the Leicester Crown Court, laughing and waving from the balcony like some old royal descendant, but her confident smile quickly faded. The jury deliberated for only 28 hours before reaching their verdict, and unfortunately for Mahek, it wasn't good. The jury found Mahek and Ansreen guilty of 2 counts of murder. Rakan Kenwan and Raiz Jamal, who were the drivers of the 2 cars, were also found guilty of murder. Meanwhile, Sanaf Gula Mustafa, Amir Jamal, and Natasha Akhtar were found not guilty of murder but guilty of manslaughter. Mohammed Patel was found not guilty of both murder and manslaughter. In response to the verdict, Detective Inspector Mark Parrish, the lead investigator in the case, said, "This was a brutal and cold-blooded attack that ultimately took the lives of 2 men." After trapping Saqib and Hashim, chasing them at high speed, and eventually crashing their car off the road, none of the defendants attempted to help the victims or call for help when the car was on fire. Instead, they just kept driving, even passing the crash site without any remorse, and still no one tried to offer assistance. As a result of their actions, Mahek Bukhari was sentenced to life in prison with a minimum of 31 years and 8 months, while her mother, Ansreen, was sentenced to life with a minimum of 26 years and 9 months. Ray's Jamal received a 31-year life sentence, but was given an additional 5 years after being found guilty of assaulting a white woman. Rakan Kanwan was sentenced to 26 years to life after being convicted of manslaughter. Sanaf Gula Mustafa, Amir, Natasha, and Muhammad Patel were sentenced to 14, 11 years and 11 years in prison respectively. After the verdict, Saqib's family said that Saqib was a young man who was deeply loved, kind-hearted, caring, thoughtful, and wise. He had only been led astray by the darkness of worldly love, which eventually ensnared him. It was God's test for Saqib. We are devastated by this senseless act and are still struggling to come to terms with the magnitude of our loss. Saqib's death has brought so much sorrow, not only to his family but also to many who knew him. We have hope and faith that Saqib has found eternal peace with our Lord, and we will meet him again when the time comes. We also pray that no other family should have to endure the heavy suffering and pain we have gone through. Hashim's family called him the star of the family, and their world collapsed after his death. They said everyone who knew Hashim loved him. This loss is huge not just for us, but for the entire community. Hashim was a mischievous young man who always had a smile on his face, a handsome guy inside and out, and always ready to help anyone. They added, on that day, he was just helping his friend, and that's what cost him his life. We are so upset because 2 lives were lost for no clear reason. We can understand Ansareen's position, but using violence to solve a personal problem? That's just wrong. What's even more frustrating is that out of the 8 people involved, not a single one thought this could end badly. The worst part is, Hashim was completely innocent. He was just trying to help Saqib, and for his kindness, he became a victim. To this day, Mahek's profiles are still online for the world to see. Who knows if YouTube, TikTok, or Instagram will take them down, but for now, they're still up. They serve as a terrible reminder of Mahek's wrongdoings and a virtual tombstone for a woman now behind bars. Meanwhile, the lives of Saqib and Hashim, who lived more in the real world than the online one, are much harder to find. I truly hope their families find closure in the future. As of today, Mahek's profiles have disappeared from the internet, erased forever. Trying to find a photo of her for this video has become its own challenge. Her creative work is now forgotten, and the world seems to prefer forgetting her reckless and foolish mistakes. Meanwhile, finding profiles of Saqib and Hashim is much harder, because they chose to live in the real world rather than chasing likes online. Well, I think that's enough to close this case, folks. Thank you so much for following along, and thank you for watching. I truly appreciate it. I hope the proper punishment is given to everyone involved, especially Mahek and Ansareen. See you next time for another crime story video.